Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we're speaking with a mechanical engineer from Cincinnati, Ohio, who designs tires for Goodyear in North Carolina. This athlete started her competition journey in 2018 and competed in 2 national shows before earning her pro card at the 2019 National Championships. Since then, she's competed in 7 IFBB Pro shows, including 3 this year, and 1 she's in peak week 4. So welcome to the show, Erin Dennis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am awesome. I love that we're sharing peak week. This is cool.
I know. I love it.
Well, it's especially nice because I know the commitment to show up and do something like this when you are like chugging your water and like getting everything in order for the week ahead. So I just am really grateful for your time today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm such like a morning person. I've been up, did my cardio, did my meal prep, did my training. Like I'm chilling now.
I love that. I'm in the same position. So I want to let the listeners know we're recording this on May 15th. So Erin's prepping for Optimum. I'm prepping for Contra Costa or Costa. I don't know. I'll figure out how it's said later. But before we jump into everything, do you have a ritual or something you do right before your heel hits the stage?
When I'm like the next one up, I'm just in my head like, girl, you better work it. Like, this is what you worked for. It's like, get it all out on the table now. Like, this is it, as soon as you walk out, like that's their first impression of you. So you better work.
How do you make a good first impression? Like, do you think it's the moment, like, you're looking them in the eyes, or do you think it happens when you're in the center box?
I think it's literally the walk. Like that's the first thing that they see is you walking out. So if you walk out not looking confident, not looking like that you belong there, they're just going to kind of, I don't know, if you would see someone walking out on stage looking nervous, it doesn't matter if their physique is phenomenal. You're just kind of like, oh, this person doesn't even think they belong here. Like, why would I think they belong here? So that's kind of my mindset is like, as soon as you step out on that stage, you better act like you should be there.
Yes. And like, it's distracting, honestly, to watch competitors who look either like really in their head or in their body be not present, because you're less focused on like, oh, look at their amazing physique. You're like, what's going on in their head? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's distracting. And it's like, yeah, I totally agree.
So you give yourself that pep talk. And of course, then you go out there and you kill it. And you've now competed many times. You're in peak week now. And since I've got you in peak week, I think it would be a great opportunity, which I didn't even plan for this, but I think it would be cool to kind of share what a peak week might look like. And I know it's different for everybody, so I'm not going to hold you to that, but like, how are you feeling? Like, give us maybe a breakdown of like mental and emotional and physical feelings that you're experiencing.
Yeah. So by now, this being my 4th show already of the year, kind of back to back, they've been just about like every other week. It's just what I do at this point. And, people think I'm crazy for waking up at 3:00 in the morning, but I have to get my check-ins and then do cardio and then do the sauna and then get ready for work and be at work by 6:30, 7 a.m. So, it does take a toll on your body. I think mentally I'm kind of like, we know what we need to work on. I'm ready to work on it. But at the same time, like, this is just what I'm doing. This is like, it is what it is. So that's where my mindset is. When my alarm goes off in the morning, it's just like, all right, time to get up. Let's do this. We got cardio, we got check-ins, we got sauna. It has been a lot, but I love it. And like, at the end of the day, it's a hobby, but it's also a passion. So I'm here for it.
Yes, totally. Like a lot of people actually today in the bathroom at the gym, some girls are like, I don't know how you're waking up that early to do your fasted cardio and like your check-ins. And it's like, I don't know, like when else would I do it? Like if it's a priority, it gets done, and it is a priority, so it's getting done, and it's just natural for me now. And I think, like you said, you're just living the life, so it's become habitual, and now this is your fourth peak, and it's like, okay, what's really changing? It's not that dramatic. And I'm actually curious, like what your training looks like when you are doing like a show and then 1 week without a show and then peaking. Like how does your training change?
It doesn't really change at all, to be honest. We're just pushing as much weight as we can with, our split, and it's just the same thing. You have to like revolve the peak week around certain training days, but other than that, like things don't really change.
Mm-hmm. And you have said many times, and you did just mention it too, like you really just love this process. It's a passion for you. So what does bodybuilding mean for you? Like, what do you love about it? Why do you do this?
So when I was growing up, I was always playing sports, volleyball, basketball, year round, all the time, 100%. So then when I got into high school, I started training with my brother, who was a power lifter at the time. And we started training together. And then just from there, I had a passion for lifting. But once I got to college and I wasn't playing sports anymore, I was kind of like, oh God, what do I do? How do I like keep my physique in check? I'm not being told to do these sprints or whatever it may be. So I kind of had to like figure out how to train myself. And honestly, I wish I would have started bodybuilding back then when I was younger in college, but it just didn't work out that way. Once I moved down to North Carolina, one of my friends was like, oh, we should do this bodybuilding competition. And I was like, girl, what? Are you crazy? I'm not doing that. And then I ended up committing to it, and I think she backed out, but I just never looked back. Like that was it for me. I like having the discipline and something to look forward to. At one point, I was like signing up for half marathons and 5Ks and whatever. And I hate running, but it was just like, I wanted something that I was working toward. I did a bunch of tough mudders and stuff like that. So like bodybuilding has just been the exact thing that I need to be working toward to get my physique goals and to like hold me accountable.
Yes. And I think it's funny you said you wish you would have started back in college. Is there anything else you would change about your journey thus far?
No, I really wouldn't, like, because when I moved down to North Carolina, that girl who had told me like, let's do this competition, here's a local team and trainer and blah blah blah, she set me up with those people, and they were amazing. Like that became my family in North Carolina. I owe so much of my success to them, and like it was perfect the way that it worked out. Like I'm so thankful for everything that has happened up until this point.
Are they still your family? Like, do you still consider them to be?
Yeah, absolutely. My family is all back in Ohio, so those are my people down here. And even though I'm not on the team anymore, like they have done so much for me. I love them.
I think that's amazing to hear, especially because it's hard to leave a team you feel so connected to, you feel like family. And I'm wondering if you ever had any fears about leaving them and getting a different coach.
Yeah, it was really hard. I had considered it after the 2020 season, but with the pandemic and the shutdowns and everything, my 12-week prep turned into like a 24-week prep.
Mhm.
And I knew that my physique wasn't what it should have been because of that. So I stayed with the team and we went on to the 2021 season. But then after that, I just felt like there was something different that I needed to be doing in order to kind of do better at the pro level. Um, and so it was really hard leaving. I don't regret it because I'm like my results this year have spoke for themselves. Just for myself, those changes made a huge difference. But it sucks because like we were so tight and I owe them everything that I am, but it's a at the end of the day, it's a business decision and you need to do what's best for you regardless of personal feelings. So it happens.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because, and now I'm comfortable talking about this because your episode won't come out until after I've made this decision. But I'm literally doing that. I'm in the process of doing that. So after this show, I'll be leaving my coaches who I've been with for 5 years, and they feel like family to me, and it's that's why I was curious on your mentality or your experience with that because it's hard. It's a hard decision, and it's like honestly it weighed on me for so long, and now I feel like I'm at peace with it because I'm ready to take it to another level, take it to a different step and place in my journey. But I haven't even told them yet, so I don't know how they'll respond, but I'm sure like they'll be supportive. And I think that's part of what makes it difficult is like the unknown of like what is next. And I know this is the best decision, but what if it feels or the response is different? So I appreciate you sharing your experience with that and encouraging others like, yeah, sometimes you have to just do what's best for you.
Yeah, it's hard. And like you get so wrapped up with the people and the environment and you get
Mhm.
comfortable. And then it's hard to make a change like that. But, if you're not getting what you want out of it, you know what you need to do. You need to kind of take the personal out of it.
Yeah, exactly. That is the piece I've had to make is with myself on that side of things because at the end of the day, there's more to this than the community is huge and important. There's more to it than that. Like we still want to thrive as athletes, and you said you've been feeling really good about your shows this year, and the results have spoken for themselves. So what are your thoughts right now on the feedback you've received? I know you said earlier like what you need to work on, so what's the feedback? What are you working on? And yeah, how do you feel about your season?
I'm really happy with the way this season is going. So in 2020, I did 2 shows. In 2021, I did 2 shows. Um, some of them were, placing 15th or not placing at all. So this year I've consistently been like right around 10th out of 30, out of 25, whatever. So the placing has been much better. My physique has changed a lot. We've grown my glutes. My upper body has always been okay. It's just the lower body that I need to pull in. So now, like after my first show, they said to come in a little tighter. By the third show, I was a little too hard and too tight. But for me, I need to grow my hamstrings. My glutes are in, but there's really no hamstrings. Um, so that's what we need to work on. And we're not going to be able to grow those if we keep competing. So that's going to be the off-season plan. They said they like my shape and structure and posing's great. Stage presence is great. So it doesn't seem like there's too much that I need to work on, but we just need that time.
And I don't think since 2018 you've really taken that much time off, but you've made such improvements. And I don't want to discredit that at all. I'm just saying that's something I noticed, other than like the breaks between shows and that length of time, especially like with 2020. But what is your approach to taking time off, and how have you been able to make the changes necessary without extended periods?
I've just been doing, I'm the type of person that I just do what I'm told. Like if I have a coach and he tells me this is what you need to do to get where you need to be, all right, let's do it. Like I don't ask questions, I'm ready. So I feel like I'm a very coachable athlete. And again, like the results, they just speak for themselves. Like it's working, but I don't know how much time we'll take, if we'll try to come back at the end of the year and do a couple shows, or if we'll realize that we need a little bit more time. Again, I just kind of go with the flow and do what I'm told.
I think that's great, and a testament to your commitment as well. And it almost sounds like it's not difficult for you necessarily to pull away if you need to, or to step on the gas if you need to.
Yeah. And like, I know a lot of people struggle with the off season and putting on weight and all kinds of stuff, but that doesn't bother me. Like when it's time for off season, my mentality just shifts and I know it's time. I don't care that the scale goes up. I want the scale to go up. Like I want
Mhm.
to put muscle on. I know I'm going to put fat on. I'm happy with my body no matter what it looks like. Like I know I'm going in the right direction if I'm doing what I need to do. So that part doesn't bother me. I really hate when I see women struggling with that, like putting on weight, watching the scale go up. Like if you're in the off season, that should be positive to you.
How did you get that mindset fostered for those people out there who are concerned about it?
So I think the one off season, quote unquote, that I had between, let me try to think, between junior USA's and nationals, I put on the most weight I've put on ever. I was the heaviest I've ever been. I was probably a little too fluffy, but I went from almost dead last at junior USA's to getting my pro card at nationals. So
Mhm.
that just kind of like showed me that, oh, even though you put on a lot of weight and maybe were uncomfortable, that got you where you needed to be. That changed your whole physique. Like that was what needed to happen. And just since then, it's like I understand and it doesn't bother me anymore.
I love that. That's so important because sometimes we can get caught up in like, I don't want to gain more than 5, 10 pounds or whatever percentage over stage weight. But like, I personally have noticed biggest differences when I gain more than that because I have been small, so it's like I have to keep growing and growing. If I didn't, then it will just take longer. So I think it's also like comfort levels too. Like some people would rather put on less but take longer to build, and some people are willing to go into like bodybuilder mode
Yeah.
and like eat and like push the food, push the weight. Like it's uncomfortable sometimes for sure to do those things, but part of it is acceptance for your body and acceptance for this progress and for these goals that we have to accept that in order to get to the version of us on stage that's better, we have to also respect that there's a version of us that committed day in and day out to being uncomfortable in a different way. Like yes, prep can be uncomfortable, but we're really uncomfortable year round when you think about it.
It's so true. Like trying to push 400 grams of carbs in the off season is not easy either.
How do you normally hit your 400 grams of carbs?
So we were doing that just on leg days. So I think that was 3 times a week. And it was just a lot of rice and oats and all the same stuff.
Just bigger portions.
Yeah. And I mean, I wake up so early, so that kind of helps being able to start eating earlier. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy either way. But then also, like, this is a passion, but at the end of the day, it's just a hobby. And so, like, I'm still gonna live my life and go out with friends and stuff. And like, I don't stress about any of that. And
Mm.
that, I think that's so important. Like, you can't be too caught up in your physique, especially in the off season. Like, when you're letting yourself just live a little, like, you can't let your mind be so caught up in the fact that, like, you need to be this certain level of lean or whatever. Like, life's too short. Go have a beer or whatever you want.
Oh man, that's too funny. I agree. Like, man, there's a threshold for our pain too. So people want to tolerate pain longer than somebody else. They'll be like, well, I want to maintain this as long as possible. I want to be lean as long as possible. But there's pain that can come with this lifestyle, and that makes it less pleasurable to our minds. So if we can relieve some of the pain, we'll actually extend our longevity in this sport. So I'm not saying, go nuts, because if this matters to you, you'll keep some sort of regimen, but accepting that actually, I think pulling off and like letting yourself live contributes to longevity, especially if your relationship with food and your body and your goals are in a good place.
Absolutely. You don't want to get burnt out on something that, like, you truly love.
Yeah. Okay, so like people have like been like, oh, I could never do bodybuilding. I'm like, well, that's probably because your impression of it is different, or maybe your belief about what's required is different than mine now. And I think you have to figure out, like, if this is a sport you want to go pro in, or you want to succeed in long term and continue to be competitive, I think we need to ask ourselves, what would be required as a standard or as a commitment that I could sustain for years and years and years? Like, what's actually realistic and fair, but still pushes me, because obviously a lot of us do this to push ourselves too. So it's like, if you don't want to live your life like this for years to come, why put yourself through something like that for 8, 10 weeks and only to feel like a failure the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's so true. Like, it does not bother me at all to eat the same food for every meal every day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
even in the off season, 90% of my meals will be the same. And then if I want to replace my last chicken and rice with Chipotle or whatever, like, that's fine. But at the end of the day, like, it's all the same food. And people are like, how do you eat the same thing every day? But I'm just so, like, emotionally detached from food that food is fuel for my body. That's what it is. It's not like, I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. And people are so, like, emotionally attached to food. They're like, I could never do that. And it's like, yes, you could. You just have to want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. No one is like telling you to do it, but you could. You definitely could.
Totally. And there's so many approaches now that, like, you could be more flexible to a certain degree where it doesn't feel as restrictive, if you want to use that word. But like, I like how you're normalizing, live your life, enjoy, like, be okay with making swaps, and also accepting like the habits that are required for this sport. You got to really like them to continuously commit to them. Honestly, if you don't like the habits that you're committing to, I mean, this is going to be a short road.
Yeah. And like, once you're eating oats and egg whites for 2 years straight, you don't like, even if you eat pancakes for breakfast, you're just like, oh, this is why I don't eat this every day. Like, it makes you feel better to eat better. So then, like, it's kind of just cyclical like that.
That's true. It is also nice when you're just used to like what makes your body feel good and what fits into your day nicely. It's a bit predictable, and I think it enhances the experience when you do go out to eat or you are spending time with friends or the holidays, because it's a different connection to food. It doesn't have to be just about the food, but it is, and it is different with the food. It's almost like, I don't know if more enjoyable is the word I'm looking for, because it's not as normal, but yeah, sometimes I think it just creates a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it's so true. Because if you're just eating that stuff all the time, then that's just what it is, but
Mhm.
it's more like a treat or something.
Yes. And on the flip side, it's like if you are struggling with not, let's say you're binging on certain foods, then I would say try to incorporate in your plan every day or multiple times a week to normalize it. But otherwise, like if you like this lifestyle, you probably, and not that those who binge don't like the lifestyle, but I think that's important to consider. And when it comes time to like have a meal out or go out for the holidays, like continue to be intentional. We are so committed as athletes, like we track, we weigh, we listen to our body. We know, like people with athletes usually tend to have a better connection to their body than, let's say, general population. So we're kind of blessed with that right off the bat, that we can listen and tune into our body differently. So if we can trust that and know that, I think we'll feel even more supported going into meals that might be out of the norm as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So I want to know like what your training style kind of is, especially when you are trying to grow, because you have come such a long way since 2018. Like physically, it's so clear. So what are some of the things that you do to build muscle?
So the biggest thing has been I had 3 leg days a week for, well, still currently. So I guess like about a year. That has been my biggest improvement. Just focusing really on that lower body. But moving teams, the biggest transition was going from a lot of like quad focused exercises into hamstring and glute exercises. So, I was for years doing leg extensions and just like things where I'm already quad dominant. I don't need to be building my quads. Like my
Mhm.
quads poke out of my back pose probably too much. Like there's no hiding it. So making that transition to very, very hamstring glute focused workouts has brought my physique a long way. Um, like I said, I've always kind of had the shoulders. That's never been an issue for me. So I've dropped that down to just one time a week, which is a bummer because I really love training
Totally.
shoulders. But one of my feedback points from 2021 was that I needed a little more width in my back. So I also had 2 back days. I love training back, so I was like really excited about that. Um, I had 2 back days for about a year, and I think that really helped there as well. So just the training split, the intensity is always there for me. It helps if I have someone with me, training me, pushing me, but I can push myself as well. Just that training split and the specific exercises for what I actually need to grow has brought my physique like 180 degrees.
That is super awesome. Like it seems like you're taking a very much more intentional or focused approach. Not that you weren't focused before, but I mean focused on like what the feedback is.
Yeah, definitely.
And I recently had this conversation with someone about how like changing training is difficult when you really like certain body parts. And she was saying she does it because she just, that she knows bodybuilding's a short time and she wants to do this. So she's willing to make those changes to her protocol. But do you ever like kind of wonder, oh, why do I do this if I can't even train the way I like?
Um, just love training. The only thing I really hate is bis and tris. Well, really just biceps. I hate training biceps. But that's obviously not a major focus for me. So that's not an issue. but like, I love my shoulder days. I love my glute days. I can understand how people don't like leg day. I used to hate it, but I think just like once you start seeing the results that you want to see, it's so much more motivating. And you're like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. This is going to make me keep going. You know what I mean?
100%. I hated leg day, to be honest. I was like, no, hate is not the right word, but it's close. Like, I really didn't like it as much as I liked upper body. But then you feel every muscle fiber like pulling and stretching and then squeezing. And then you notice a difference. And year after year, like, man, I do like this because of the result. And I told myself, if you're going to get in the gym 3 days a week to hit legs, you better make it count, because otherwise 3 days of just being like, I don't really want to, or I don't like it, you're going to restrict or hold yourself back. And then that mentality shift also helped me to like legs more, because I think I brought more care and like desire to it as well.
Yeah, I used to dread leg day, but again, I think it's because it was like so quad dominant. I hate leg extensions.
Mhm.
I will do leg extensions until I cry. Like, I'm done with leg extensions. But doing more of like the hamstrings and glutes, I'm like, I know this is what I want to grow.
Yes.
I can feel it. Like, you get that pump and you're like, oh, okay, girl, I see you.
Exactly. Oh, that's the best. And when you start to like get certain movements like going up in strength too, you're like, oh, I'm motivated. Like, I want to come back in next week and see, like, can I feel it even more with a higher weight, or
Definitely.
yeah, it's so motivating. So, I was curious what it is that you want to accomplish in the pro league, because this is a hobby and a passion, and you have life outside of this that we're going to talk about. But what do you want to accomplish in the IFBB?
So obviously I want to get to the Olympia stage. Like, that's a huge goal.
Mhm.
But for me personally, I think the Arnold stage means more to me. Growing up in Ohio, I used to go to the Arnold every year with my dad and my brothers. I've went to Ohio State, which is in Columbus. So I went every year while I was a student. Like, the Arnold just really means a lot to me. And I remember when I was younger, we were watching the Bikini Girls. I was with my dad and my brothers. And like, there was no part of my mind that thought I could or would ever be up there.
Mhm.
And so I did that show in 2018 as an amateur. And now, like, that's just my big goal, is to get back up there as a pro.
Have you ever applied to be invited?
I have not. No, I thought about it this past year, but I was just like, I don't have the credentials yet. Let me wait another year.
You'll have to send them this clip. You'll be like, see, this is how important it is to me.
This is how much I want it.
That's so cool. How old were you when you watched it with your dad and brother?
I mean, we must have been going since I was young. I was probably like, let's see, if I went to college at 17, I was probably like 10. I think we went
Wow.
like, yeah, years.
That's crazy. Is your family into bodybuilding, or was it just because it was like a fit expo too?
Well, so my brother, I have two older brothers. The one that I used to train with, he was a power lifter, but he was also really into bodybuilding. Like, this man would literally watch Pumping Iron every single day. Like, it was just constantly on our television. So he was into bodybuilding. And like, my dad was a college basketball athlete. Like, we have a very athletic family.
Mhm.
um so it was always something that we were interested in. My dad even came up to the Arnold this year when I was there with my clothing sponsor, and just to like see me, but to also like walk around and see everything. So it's just always kind of been a family thing that we did.
That's so cool. So
Yeah.
they must be really supportive of you as well.
Yeah, they definitely are. And when I come home and I'm, eating my egg whites in the morning, they just kind of like laugh at me or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if they watch Pump and Iron all the time and they've been to these expos, I'm sure they get it.
They do, and they're very supportive.
That's really nice. Does your brother want to compete, or is he only powerlifting?
No, yeah, he used to power lift. Now he's just kind of like trains to be in shape. He's a lot older than me, so he's what, in his 40s, 40 now. So, yeah, we talk about training all the time, and we'll talk about like our diet and our training and whatever, but no, he doesn't have any aspirations to compete.
Got it. Well, that's just so cool. You were exposed to it from a young age, whether it was on a conscious level or not. Now you're in this position where you're actually part of the IFBB and you have plans to apply and get the invite, and you want to make it to the Olympia stage. I mean, that's just really special.
Yeah, it's important to like introduce that to people at a young age, like so that they think that fitness is just normal. That's like what you do.
Totally. I really like that perspective, like normalizing it rather than it being like written off as, oh, everyone's just on drugs or nobody there like cares about other people. It's all vain. Like, all the stereotypes that you'll hear from people who demonize the sport or demonize fitness.
Oh yeah. I get like at work, I'll get like, hey, skinny. And it's like, I'm not skinny, I'm lean. Okay.
Seriously. Yeah. Seriously. Oh my gosh. That is the worst. I'm like, please don't. I did not spend this improvement season to come out of it and be called skinny. That ain't happening.
The worst.
And then sometimes I'm like, well, maybe that's good. If they think I'm skinny, I'm probably on the right track.
Yeah, right.
So you mentioned that you were working a booth at the Arnold, and we haven't discussed this topic in a while on the podcast. So how have you managed to gain some sponsorships and connections in the industry?
So my clothing sponsor, they reached out to me about like a year and a half ago, and they are just so incredible. Like they have put together the best group of people, and they were a young company at the time. I mean, they're still only, I think, 4 years old, but they're going to all these big expos, and they're just like, they're really making a name for themselves. And I'm so like blessed to be a part of it. So yeah, we've gone to the Olympia and the Arnold and all over. They reached out, and I was just like, I got some of their products, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in. Like, say no more. But that's really important to me, is believing in a company and really being behind the product, because I've had sponsorships in the past that it became a chore. It was like, I don't even use this product. They're requiring all these photos and videos and my time, and I'm not being compensated fairly. And like, ever since that, I'm just like, I will not be with a company that I don't 100% believe in.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people learn that early on. Like, you want to be like sponsored, you want to have a connection, and then you say yes to something because it's like that's something you wanted. But then you realize, I wanted it, but I didn't want it this way.
Yeah. And the people matter. Like, the people that you surround yourself with matter. And like, the fact that in both my sponsorships, they just have like the greatest people, it really makes a big difference. Like, it's an actual community,
Yeah, absolutely. It feels good to be connected. And I get some various opportunities for this podcast, and I have yet to do ads on it, but other than like the people who I'm affiliated within the industry with, but like, I don't know, I've gotten opportunities, and if it's not like a hell yeah, I'm looking at it like it's a hell no a lot of the times, because it has to feel, like you said, it has to feel fair and it has to feel good.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And I think just because I've like been in a position where I had to promote a company that I didn't necessarily like, that I'm just like, oh, I will never do this again.
were you in a contract?
Yeah.
Uh,
And
that's
it was
rough.
just like, yeah, it was energy drinks that I didn't drink and supplements that didn't taste good. I'm just like, I don't want people to buy this.
That must have been really weird mentally for you.
Yeah. And then even after, so after the year was up, I tried to negotiate, like, hey, I'm like a professional athlete. I would like a salary compensation. And they were like, oh, it's non-negotiable. And I was like, okay, then I'm out.
You're
And
like,
then,
so am I.
yeah. And then I still had like a year. Like there was a
Man.
non-compete for a year. So I couldn't get with another supplement company. But we're past that.
That's really insightful, actually. Like these sides haven't really been discussed before. And I think it's important to learn from our past. And I'm sure now you probably look at contracts much more in depth or consider, like, well, if I sign this, what could that mean for not just this year, but 2 years from now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like such a blessing to also work with companies you like. Like I feel really blessed to have been with Band Body now for so long. And then I have the Shoe Fairy who's been really supportive, and Protan. It's like these are companies that I personally like and use. And then there's been other companies that have come and gone for sure, but I always make sure I'm using them. And then when I don't like it anymore, or if something goes wrong, like I step away, and it's hard sometimes to step away, but I think it's just as important to know when to say yes and when to say no. Like you had to stand up for yourself, and you did.
Yeah, exactly. Know what like you deserve, and you know, it's a business for both of you. So if you're not benefiting, then what are you doing?
Exactly. So I want to ask you about your overall look on stage, because you've mixed it up over the years and it's evolved quite a bit. So from suit colors to hairstyles, I'm wondering if you prefer mixing it up, if you're looking for your like look, if you found your look, like what's the motivation behind that?
So as far as suit color goes, I love blues. I've
Yeah.
always done blues. This is the first year that I've gone into red, and my suit sponsor has been amazing. She sends me suits all the time.
Oh.
We've tried green. I don't think that's my color. We've tried like a purple pink. That's definitely not my color. The blues were always really, really good on me. This year we decided to go with a red, and like I haven't taken it off. She's like, do you want another color? I'll send you another suit. And I'm like, no, I'm wearing this red right until I like wear it out. So it's just kind of been experiments with the suit colors. Um, I really feel like this red has been good, and like I haven't been seeing like too many reds this year. It seems like a lot of people are
Yeah.
still doing the blues and the purples. So I like that it's a little different, even though red's pretty typical. As far as hair, I've always struggled to keep curl in my hair. Um, so I've gone straight a long time, and then I tried crimping it, but I've been able to keep the curl this year. And like, I really like that. I still go back and forth. Like, do I want to try it straight? But I just think the curl has been looking really good. So I've kept my look the same this whole year. I've kept my makeup the same. I do my own makeup, my own hair. Um, and that's one thing that the judges said was like your overall look on stage is great. So if they're liking it, I'm not gonna keep experimenting and changing things. But yeah, it has been I've done a lot of different things on stage over the years.
Yeah, I think that's important to be willing to adapt or change things, especially if something hasn't been working or it has been, and maybe you find something you really end up liking.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think you have now competed in more shows as a pro than you did as an amateur. So I was wondering what some of the best memories you've had or you have made are.
So at the pro level, we have to travel a lot. So you go to new cities, meet new people. Like it's all been a great experience. Traveling with like my new team and meeting those people, all kinds of things. When I was an amateur, it was a lot of just North Carolina shows, just going an hour away, 2 hours away, all the people. So being able to meet new people and everything, that's been a great experience. And then traveling and going to different cities has been great as well. Um, it's I would have never gone to Shreveport, Louisiana if it wasn't for the IFBB.
Totally. It's great. It's an awesome opportunity in this sport that we get to, like, if we want to, we do have the opportunity to travel somewhere new.
Yeah, it's been different, definitely. At the pro level, having to do all this travel, with work and trying to make flights work and all kinds of stuff. But it's been great. It really has.
Where's your favorite place you've traveled to?
For the competition,
Mm-hmm.
um, Miami was fun when I got my pro card, and then I've been back to Orlando a lot. Anywhere in Florida is really great, honestly.
That's
That's always
awesome.
a lot of fun.
Do you usually drive there from the Carolinas or you fly?
I drove to I think I drove to Tampa when I did Tampa, but this year I've been to Orlando twice and I've flown. It's just a direct 2 hour flight as opposed to an 8 hour drive. So it's a
Do,
little easier.
yeah, that would be easier, especially if you're doing it alone or you've already got some tan on or whatever you got to eat or drink your water.
Definitely. Yeah, 8 hours is my limit as far as driving goes. Um, when I saw the flights for Shreveport, I was like, oh my God, do I drive? This is ridiculous. But it was like a 12-hour drive. So that was out of the question.
Seriously, I'm flying out for this show next weekend and it's the first time I'm flying for a show and I'm like, do I have to worry about anything? I'm like, it's literally like I think it's an hour and a half or 2 hour flight. Like it's nothing because it's Arizona to Northern California. I mean, it'll be fine. But
It's
you
just
do,
hard to like pack. Like you want to
yeah,
pack lightly, but you want your ring light and you need your sheets and all kinds of stuff that like you could just throw in your car as opposed to like having
exactly.
to get it into your carry-on or your checked bag or whatever.
Yeah. And with traveling by vehicle, if you want to throw in extra stuff just to have it, like 4 heels, not that you would ever need it instead of one or two, it like there's something comforting about that.
I'm an overpacker. Like, I don't know what I'm going to want to wear after the show. I need
Yes.
four different options,
Oh my
and I can
God.
only fit like one extra pair of shoes.
That's what I was
So
just gonna say. The shoes, like heels or Vans. Do I keep it casual so I could wear these shoes the whole time? But I could wear those ones to the airport, and I can pack these. Like, please relax. It's one night. You're probably gonna end up
I
kicking
know,
your
I
feet up
know.
anyway.
You pack one pair of heels plus your stage heels, and then you wear cute sneakers. That's it.
Exactly. I love it. We've got it down. We know what needs to happen, but we'll question it every time anyway.
I swear.
So something I admire about you too is you do have a life outside of this and a really interesting job. I was really curious about your work and how you got into it.
Yeah. So, in high school, when you have to like figure out what you want to do with your life, I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I like math and science. So I told my dad, I was like, should I go into accounting? And he was like, no, you would hate that. He was like, just do some research on engineering and see what you think. And he himself is a mechanical engineer. So obviously I was like, oh yeah, this sounds fun. And so I applied to schools for mechanical engineering and I just never looked back. I loved it.
Wow. How interesting. So your dad does that and you decided to do it and you really enjoy it.
Yeah, so I interned for him I think 1 year, and then he helped me find other companies to intern with um while I was at school. And so, I got a broad spectrum of kind of what engineering could be. It's There's so much to do with this degree. Like, I worked for a company after I graduated where I was kind of like a contract engineering firm where we were going to manufacturing plants and designing and installing like safety equipment. So that was like one thing that I've done. And then with Goodyear, I have been over the quality of all of the tread and the sidewall and all the extruded components. Um, I've been over the quality of belts and whatever. And now I'm designing the tires. So it's like there's so much that you can do with this degree. And specifically in Goodyear, there's so much that I could do. It's really been it's been a great, I have no complaints.
That is so cool. And I mean, going from I have no idea what I'm going to do to now designing tires, like I'm wondering if your worldview has changed. Like, do you look around at cars and think of things or various, I don't know, transportation vehicles and think about your work?
I'll always look at them. And if it's a Goodyear, I'll look at the serial number and see if my plant produced it. And then I can look at the code and see if it's like one of my tires. So like
That's so cute.
I'll know if my name is on that tire.
Oh my God, I love that. That's adorable. This is my child. This is my baby. This is my tire.
And then
Out
if
on the
I'm with
road.
my parents, I'm like, why aren't there Goodyears on your cars? Like, are you kidding me? You don't support me?
Oh, that's too good. I love it. So, with working a full-time job, I know you said earlier you're up really early, you're taking care of business. What do you do to ensure you have the time off, the finances, and the support from your work needed to compete in full seasons?
It's been difficult in the past. Like when I first started working for Goodyear, I was in a role where I had to work directly with the people on the manufacturing floor. And like I said, I was over the quality of, say, the tread. And if they had a quality issue, I needed to figure out what was causing that and what we needed to do to fix it. And since it's a 24-hour operation, my hours could be anything. I mean, they were typically like 6:30 to 4:30, but there were nights where I had to stay till 11, or I would get called back in at 9 o'clock at night and have to stay until whenever, so it was a lot more, um, it wasn't structured. I was just kind of on call all the time. So I had to squeeze in my training when I could. And I had, my plan was before work cardio and then after work training. It could get messed up and I could have to stay late or go back in or whatever. But I went through a lot of preps like that.
Hmm.
So more recently, when I moved into new tire development and designing the tires, I have a much more structured work schedule now. So it's pretty much like 7 to 3. As long as I'm like getting my work done, there's no questions. I'm not on call 24/7 anymore. So it has made prepping so much easier.
That's good.
And yeah, it's made a big difference. And my boss he's the best. Like, he's always asking how prep's going. If he brings in like donuts or bagels for the office, like he'll bring me a white monster. He's like, I know
Oh,
you
that's
like
so
these.
nice.
Yeah, he's very supportive. Like, he he'll bring me into his office and be like, I was reading an article about this girl, like, what's the deal? And I'm like, you're so sweet. He's like trying to get really into the league, and it's been very supportive. I feel like a lot of people don't get that, because I have other people at work that they'll just walk by my desk and like stare at my food, and I'm like, it's the same thing I was eating yesterday. You don't need to stop by just to like look at what I'm doing. But then some people are so supportive, and they don't really know how much that means.
Oh, right. Like, I don't know. I don't see a lot of the people that I work with at the internship place I'm working at right now. But when I do, and like they hear about my bodybuilding, I've never gotten negative feedback. It's been fairly positive, and I think that's really important, is to be able to feel good and comfortable. And I'm also really grateful for people at the gym who are so supportive, who like ask questions about it, even if it's the same shit, just a different day. They're like, how's it going? You're like, well, this is, prep is this many weeks out and I'm feeling like this. And it's like they just listen and they're supportive, and that's really special.
Yeah, it's so true, because like, even when people stop by and they're just like, so, what is this, blah blah blah, like they're just inquiring about it. It feels like, oh my god, I've said this 20 times today, but it's just a new person like asking the same questions that everybody asks. So it's like, it's they're being nice and they care and they want to be supportive, but it can get like, oh my god, how many times do I have to explain my egg whites to you?
Yeah. Yes. With those, I'm just like, or when you have to consistently say like, no, I will not be participating. No, I will not be participating, like in whatever the food is. That honestly is sometimes annoying, because people don't always understand. Like I've never personally taken like a lick or a bite of anything off plan in any prep. I am not starting today. It is not going to happen. Like, I don't care if you think a lick won't do anything. And for some people, they do that and it's fine. But like for me, no, and then now it's a principle thing. But to have to explain that to someone is sometimes very difficult, because it's like,
I know, they'll be like, one pineapple won't kill you. I'm like, yeah, no shit, it won't kill me, but it's not helping me.
exactly. I'm like, no, I can't have an apple just because it's healthy. But thank you
Right.
for thinking of me and offering it to me. Or people will be like, oh, well, I brought this because it's healthy and it's like a vegan cookie. You're like, well.
I get that all the time. Like, wait, you don't eat what was it? Bananas or something? And I was like, it's not on my plan right now. No. Like,
Yes.
what the hell?
Oh my God, too funny. But I'm always like, wow, it's nice that they're trying, but it's fine. Don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Oh, so I think I've asked you a lot of what I was hoping to discuss with you, but is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted me to ask you about?
I don't think so. We talked about the stage and my career.
Yeah, lots of
Yeah.
things. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I want to let you know it's just been so smooth and easy and fun, and I'm really glad that we talked.
Good. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember I was driving to Ohio. This had to be like, let's see, 2018, either it was Thanksgiving. I was driving home listening to your podcast, and I don't remember who was on, but they were just talking about the Arnold. And I was like, oh my God, I want to do the Arnold so bad. I text my coach right then and there, like, hey, can I do the Arnold 2018? And he was like, yeah, let's get it. And so I started prep like the next week.
Wow. Oh my God. That is so cool to hear.
Yeah.
I honestly wonder if it was Jennifer Dory's episode, only because I remember specifically asking her what she preferred, the Arnold or the Olympia. And so I
maybe
wonder,
it was.
yeah, I wonder, but regardless, that's so cool to hear. And you know, then that I got to ask you before we wrap this up, what your best advice is for competitor or people who have never competed before, but would like to, and then competitors on their road to pro.
Yeah. So I think it's really all about your mindset. Like, if you're in the mindset of prep, you have to be 100% in on prep. Like, it might take, being a little selfish and having to say no to people and whatever, but that needs to be your mindset. That needs to be every action that you take during that prep. And then once it's the off season, your mindset needs to switch, and you need to be okay with gaining weight, watching the scale go up, watching your body change in the opposite direction. You just have to know what's going to happen and be okay with it. Like, so many people get caught up in gaining weight after a show and they get depressed and stuff, but it's because they're so used to watching their body transform and become tighter, and you have veins and muscles poking out and all that. But you're only disappointed in the off season because your mindset hasn't changed. So I think that's very important for new competitors. For people on the road to pro, I mean, you just have to keep going. Like, my first show that would have qualified me to be a pro was the Arnold, and I got third place. And I was happy with that because it was my first, like, quote unquote national show. It's not technically a national show. And then I came back and did junior USAs, and work and other things just like it was really bad. My cortisol was through the roof. My physique was not on point. I got second to last. Like, I was done. I was so discouraged. Like, I couldn't understand what had happened. And I was about to give up. And then I came back and got my pro card at nationals. So it's like, just keep going. Don't, if it's what you want, it's what you'll get.
Such beautiful and really encouraging advice. I do appreciate you sharing that. And like I said, I've just loved every minute of this conversation, and I hope other people who are listening have too. And I'd love for them to be able to continue to follow your journey and connect with you. So can you let everyone know how they can do that?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at erin.dennis.ifbb. I don't really do Twitter or anything else. I guess TikTok is the same, erin.dennis.ifbb, but yep, that's about it.
Yay. Okay. I'm going to put that in the show notes. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section and find her name there. It's all alphabetized, so it'll be very easy. And along with the links to her Instagram, you're going to see all the show notes. So I'm talking episode timestamps, a full summary of the topics covered, a summary of the episode itself. So when you're telling all your friends and teammates about this, you'll know exactly what to share with them. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. It means so much to me, and I just really appreciate the support over the years with the podcast. Actually, we're recording this. This is the first episode I'm recording after celebrating like 4 years of this podcast. So it's just
yay.
Yeah, it's so cool for me. And it's not possible without athletes like you, Erin, and of course the listeners for the continuous support. So Thank you guys so much. If you ever have athletes you want to hear or topics you want covered, you can always reach out to me on Instagram, celestial_fit, or through my website. There's different ways to contact me too. So thank you guys. And thank you, Erin.
I appreciate you, Celeste. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Me too, you. And to everybody listening, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just be